Today, we're very, very lucky to have a guest speaker, Jake Sullivan. Jake is the Kissinger Professor of the Practice of Statecraft and World Order at the Harvard Kennedy School and Senior Fellow at the Carsey School for Public Policy at the University of New Hampshire. He was the 28th National Security Advisor from 2021 to 2025. I used to watch you on TV consistently, enjoying it. In the Obama administration, he served as National Security Advisor to then Vice President Biden. He was Director of Policy and Planning Staff for the U.S. Department of State, Deputy Chief of Staff to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. In the years between government service, Jake was the Senior Fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, where he helped conceive a bipartisan task force project on foreign policy in the middle class. He held teaching posts at UNH, Dartmouth, and Yale, and he co-founded and co-chaired the Advisory Board of National Security Action. He holds a BA degree in Political Science and International Studies from Yale, a Master's in International Relations from Oxford, and he was a Rhodes Scholar and got his law degree from Yale Law School. He clerked for Chief Justice Stephen Breyer of the Supreme Court. He grew up the second of 5 children in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and is a proud product of the Minneapolis school system. Now, of all the degrees that impressed me most, it's Minneapolis, because my wife, Joan, also graduated, went to school there. So I know all people from Minneapolis are very smart. His wife is Maggie Goodlander, our congressman. So please join me in welcoming Jake.
Well, thank you very much for that kind introduction, and it's just a genuine honor for me to be here for this event with the Loeb School and here at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College. You know, this room that we're in actually holds a special place in our national life. It is, as one journalist aptly put it, a box seat on America's most riveting political theater. And today, we've had a box seat to see just some real inspiration, and I want to talk about both of the people who have won these awards. This is a place where ideas are tested, where leaders are forged, and where the future of our nation is debated with the seriousness and vigor that our democracy demands. And for me, it's a special privilege to be here, not just as a former and maybe potentially future public servant, but as a neighbor just down the road from our home in Concord. And of all the titles that Howard read as part of my biography, the one that I'm most proud of now is Congressional Spouse. And my wife, Maggie Goodlander, Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander, is here today. Now, I'm not a native of New Hampshire. I grew up in Minneapolis, went to Southwest High School. I married a woman who loves the state more than anyone I know and who loves freedom more than anyone I know. The state motto of Minnesota is the Star of the North. It's a lovely little phrase. The state motto of New Hampshire is live free or die, which if you're from Minnesota, you kind of think that's going pretty hard. We're kind of more live free or not free, whatever's easier for you. But no one, I think, has taught me more about that than Maggie has. This is for her not a slogan, it's a philosophy, it's a way of life, it's a way of being. And I think it's an amazing thing that the 2nd District is represented by a person with such a fearless sense of principle and patriotism, and why so many people in this room, from the leadership of the union leader, to our awardees, to many other folks here, have done so much to try to continue to sustain that lifeblood of freedom that has made New Hampshire a special place, but also that lays the foundation for the United States to continue to thrive in the decades ahead. And I'm really humbled to be here in the presence and to celebrate this year's honorees. Tonight, you've honored Sean Young for a courageous act of personal expression. And you've honored Melanie Plenda for her tireless work building the very ecosystem where expression can flourish and inform the public debate. What I want to talk about may seem a little far afield, but is very connected to the stories that you heard today. And it's about how these stories are actually the bedrock of our national security and our enduring strength in the world. I served for 4 years as National Security Advisor. I sat in the Situation Room, and I sat in the Oval Office. And what I hear today in these stories are echoes of the things that make America a force for good in the world and a country with power and purpose in the world. So let's start back in Conway at Levitt's Country Bakery, when Sean Young and Olivia, who's here today with her art students from Kennett High School, painted this mural on his building's facade. This was a whimsical, joyful piece of public art. A mountain range made of donuts, muffins, and cinnamon rolls, set against a vibrant sunrise. The community loved it, but as we heard in the video, the town, the zoning board, did not love it. They cited the bakery, claiming the mural was not art, but rather an illegal sign, because it depicted baked goods, the very thing that Sean sells. Had his students just painted mountains, it would have been fine, but because they painted donut mountains, it was a violation. Well, Sean Young said that makes no sense. He took his case to federal court, and in May of this year, Judge LaPlante affirmed a simple but powerful idea. In America, the government doesn't just get to be an art critic. It can't silence speech simply because of an arbitrary decision that it thinks it conveys one thing rather than another thing. Now, some may see this as a local issue, a modest issue, but as all those comments on that Facebook page, all those people who viewed that, they saw this as way more than that. They saw it as something profound, because it is. A society where a baker, a local proprietor, can challenge his government over the right to speak and win is a society that is unafraid of dissent. It is a society that trusts its citizens and trusts its institutions to resolve disputes not by dictate but by law. And that is a society that can correct its own mistakes. This capacity for self-correction is at the core of America's resilience, and it is a foundational strategic asset. In my role as National Security Advisor, I studied the strengths and weaknesses of nations. And I can tell you that in the rigid top-down systems of our adversaries, this story is not possible. There, the state is absolute. A challenge like Sean's wouldn't end in a courtroom victory. It would end in silence or worse. That fear-based conformity can create a brittle society, one that can't innovate and adapt or absorb shocks. Our system, the American system, by contrast, is designed for resilience. It anticipates error, and we make plenty of errors, and it builds in the mechanisms for its correction. Here, there was an error. It was an error made by the town, and the error was corrected. Yes, it was corrected by a judge, but more importantly, it was corrected by the Constitution of the United States, by the First Amendment that we're celebrating here today. And this democratic resilience, this ability to transparently course correct, I think is a national security asset we need to protect and we need to cherish. I'll just tell a brief story. When I was serving as National Security Advisor to then Vice President Biden, we went to Singapore. And Vice President Biden met with Lee Kuan Yew, who was the founding Prime Minister of Singapore, ruled the country for decades. Very wise person. And in his kind of normal way, Vice President Biden said, "Hey, what's China up to?" And without missing a beat, Lee Kuan Yew said, "Oh, I'll tell you what they're up to. They're in America and they're digging." And he said, "They're in America and they're digging what?" "They're digging to try to find the black box." I said, "The black box?" "Yeah, the black box where you keep the secret of how America can keep screwing up in all kinds of ways and then reinvent itself and do better. Because every country wants that secret." And that's part of what this story is all about. Another thing I've learned studying democracies and autocracies around the world is that the right to speak is really only as strong as the public's ability to hear, to listen, to learn, and to discern truth from falsehood. And this is where Melanie Plenda's essential work comes in. As the director of the Granite State News Collaborative, she's on the front lines of a critical part of the fight, a fight to preserve what I call the infrastructure of truth. Through initiatives like the Know Your News campaign, she's working to strengthen local journalism, to equip citizens with media literacy skills, the things they need to be able to navigate what has become an insane and complex information landscape. And in an age of noise and misinformation, the Granite State News Collaborative is a force for clarity and for truth, uniting more than 20 newsrooms to tackle the stories that matter most. And it's right there in the name, collaborative. It's a powerful model of collaboration, ensuring that vital, in-depth journalism on issues like housing and healthcare and equity reaches every corner of our state. And by sharing resources, this collaborative actually empowers smaller outlets to conduct the intensive investigative reporting that actually holds power accountable and that builds a more informed and engaged democracy. And this, too, is a matter of national security. One of the most insidious threats we face today is information warfare. Adversaries, both state and non-state actors, are using a playbook of malign influence tactics. They're creating networks of fake online accounts. And what they're trying to do is pose as real citizens. They're using proxies to launder their narratives, making this kind of manufactured propaganda look like homegrown opinion. And their goal is to exacerbate existing social divides, amplify polarization, and erode the very trust that holds our democracy together. And let me tell you, this threat is accelerating at breathtaking speed, powered by artificial intelligence. Generative AI tools can now, today, create hyper-realistic fake videos, images, and audio at a scale we've never seen before. A voice can be cloned to make a public official appear to say something they never said. An event that never happened can be manufactured as fabricated proof. This is not, as I said, a future problem. It's a clear and present danger to our national security. And our adversaries are in a persistent quest to gain strategic advantage through information operations. They are not bound by the same values that we are. The single most effective defense against this assault is a robust, trusted, independent local press. A community that trusts its local reporters to cover the school board meeting, to cover the issues that matter in your daily lives, to be able to discern truth from fiction or falsehood, is a community that is less likely to fall for a foreign troll farm's propaganda. A free press, at the end of the day, is our shield. It exposes our flaws so we can address them, while the state-controlled media of our rivals exist only to hide the flaws of their regimes. But this shield of the free press, comes with a cost, and its defenders sometimes pay an unimaginable price. I want to speak just for a moment about two such defenders, Evan Gershkovich and Alsu Kurmasheva. Evan was a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. He was arrested in Russia in March of 2023 when I was National Security Advisor. The Kremlin claimed he was, quote, caught red-handed. Yeah, he was, caught red-handed in the act of journalism. Alsu, an editor for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and a dual U.S.-Russian citizen, was detained that same year while in Russia to care for her ailing mother. Her crime? Failing to register as a, quote, foreign agent and allegedly, quote, spreading false information about the Russian military. Both were subjected to sham trials. Both were convicted of crimes they did not commit, and both were sentenced to long years in a Russian penal colony. These weren't just simple consular cases. They were strategic attacks by the Kremlin on the very idea of truth. Russia, a regime built on a mountain of lies, fears nothing more than a journalist asking a simple question. So they took Evan and Alsu hostage, not for leverage over a specific policy, but for leverage over reality itself. President Biden told me and our team at the State Department and in other parts of the U.S. government, do what's necessary to get Evan and Alsu home. And also bring home a former Marine, Paul Whelan, who had been languishing in prison in Russia for many years. This required one of the most painstaking and complex diplomatic efforts in recent memory. We had to involve 6 different countries in a massive prisoner exchange, the likes of which we've not seen since the height of the Cold War. And in August 1st of last year, we executed this prisoner swap, and Evan and Alsu and Paul all came home, and that was the result of months of quiet and relentless work by dedicated public servants at the State Department, the intelligence community, and at the White House. The day they landed on American soil was a very good day. It was a moment of profound relief for their families who had endured an unimaginable ordeal. But it sent a clear message to the world. The United States will go to extraordinary lengths, not just to defend our citizens, but to defend our values. We brought Evan and Alsu home because they are Americans, but we also fought for them because of what they represent, the fearless pursuit of the truth. And that's who we are as a nation. So what does a baker's mural in Conway and a local news collaborative across the state of New Hampshire have to do with a secret prisoner swap executed on the tarmac in Ankara, Turkey? Everything. They're all part of the same story. A story about a nation that believes its strength comes not from the dictates of a single leader, but from the cacophony of millions of voices. A nation that believes that a free press is not the enemy of the people, but the people's greatest ally in holding power to account. Our openness is our greatest strength. And as the recent editorial in the Union Leader pointed out, our openness, our right to freedom of speech and to our other First Amendment rights can come under pressure in surprising and aggressive ways. And it's important for all of us to push back, because that's the kind of self-correction that is the very engine of our resilience. It is our shield against foreign attacks through information. It is our source of creativity, of innovation, and yes, of that unique capacity that America has for reinvention. At the end of the day, the First Amendment is a guarantee of so much of who we are, as Howard said, just who we are as a people, as a country. But it is also a core component of our national security, and that's really what brought me here today. In an age of intense strategic competition and a lot of threats from a lot of corners, our democratic resilience and therefore our democratic rights and values are our most indispensable advantage. This is what is going to allow us to face down challenges, adapt to a changing world, and emerge stronger. So let us never fail to celebrate it, and that's why it's so exciting to be here today to celebrate it. Let's nurture it, and when necessary, as Sean has done in his way and Melanie has done in hers, let's fight for it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So, Mr. Sullivan, I've been here for all of the First Amendment events and all of the speakers, including your former boss, and I must say that this is the best we've ever had. Just awesome. Just awesome.